The math is simple. If we can increase housing supply, we can bring down prices.
Where did all the new homes go? The math doesn't math. The Liberals promised housing affordability the last 9 years they've been in power, but we've all watched housing prices double since 2015 instead. They promised us 550,000 new homes each year to bring prices down. Last year, they only managed to start building 263,000 or so new homes. In Ontario, the most populated province in Canada, there were only 20,000 permits, 20,000 that were granted last year for single-family homes. How do we ever reach 550,000 new homes each year with these numbers? Makes no sense. Housing affordability isn't happening, at least not with the Liberal government. And with the looming election in 2025, the bigger question is how a new government will shake up the real estate landscape in Canada. Huge changes are coming that will make a big impact and will flip the housing market in 2025. So here are my bold predictions for what will happen this year for the freehold market. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's just hope the new government will be a little bit more serious than the last one.
Yes, we have a broad range of initiatives that are delivering on housing, like topping up the Housing Accelerator Fund with $400 million, a new $6 billion Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund to help communities build. We're leveraging transit funding to build more homes. We're launching a housing design catalog.
He's announcing a catalog, everybody! Your rent is doubled, but hey, you've got a brand new catalog. Mr. Speaker, the question was, will he build 550,000 new homes, yes or no?
Hi, my name is Zen, and if you're enjoying my data-driven and number-crunching real estate updates, be sure to like and subscribe. So here are my 5 bold predictions for the freehold market in 2025, and this includes your townhomes, your semi-detaches, and your detached homes all over the Greater Toronto area. So my 5 bold predictions are: 1, there's going to be a huge scarcity on starter homes. 2, prices are increasing. 3, buyer demands are going to surge. 4, there's going to be a recession impact. And 5, we're just not building enough of these homes. So if you're in the market for a freehold property, you'll be sure to want to hear these bold predictions to see how it impact you as a buyer or seller in 2025. So now let's jump right into each of my predictions. Number 1, the starter home scarcity. The starter home is going to be very, very undersupplied. Let me define to you what a starter home is. So a 3-bedroom house with 2 or 3 washrooms all over the Greater Toronto area, that is somewhere between $900,000 to $1.3 million. That is going to be the most competitive market in 2025. Because if you look at this current month of inventory, we ended the year around 2.5 months of inventory in Toronto. If you look carefully at this chart, there is no red box because we never even touched a buyer's market, which is over 6 months of inventory for the freehold market. Prices generally go up when we're under 2 months of inventory, which you can see by me highlighting this red box. And we're getting close. The spring market is going to be a big telltale sign of how strong the freehold market is in Toronto, as I suspect demand is going to outpace supply, but more on that later. Which very likely means that in the freehold market, we're going to dip below 2 months of inventory and prices will go up. So it will be competitive. And you can see in the suburban market, the 905, it's quite similar. Now the 905 freeholds are around 3.5 months of inventory, which is still a very soft seller's market. Not quite as strong and undersupplied as Toronto, but it's still probably going to see quite a bit of competition in 2025 for that starter home, which is your 3-bedroom, 3-washroom with a garage townhome. This lack of inventory in this segment is a direct result of 20,000 permits in Ontario, as you can see in this chart over here. The Liberal government hasn't made building any easier. If anything, they've just added more red tape, so it's crazy. Hey, it's me interrupting myself. Ready to make a move? Just one free call, no hassle, put decades of experience to work for you. Prediction number 2, prices are going to increase. If I isolate the data for freehold strictly to starter homes between $900,000 to $1.3 million, you can see in this chart in Toronto, it makes up 42.3% of all the sales that happened in 2024 in Toronto. And more than half of them sold above the listing price. These sold properties also have a days on market of 10 days, right? Meaning half of them sold in 10 days. This is an indicator that likely more than half of these properties that were sold were either sold in 3 days with conditions, or they sold with multiple offers with an offer holdback date with no conditions. Crazy, right? Just nobody talked about this in 2024. And at the end of 2025, when I pull up this exact same chart again, I'm confident that the median price is going to be much higher than this $1.2 million. I would not be surprised if this median price becomes $1.3 million for the starter homes in Toronto. This is not a crazy prediction. It's very likely going to happen. And the same can be said of the suburban starter home as well in this chart. Although this is not quite as strong as Toronto because there's a little bit more supply, but a third of the properties are still selling for over list price, similar to Toronto. And like Toronto, the median prices will likely increase as well. Number 3, the buyer demand is going to surge. This buyer demand is going to be spurred by many reasons, but the first and most obvious one is that rate cuts are continuing. And as they happen, the variable rate is coming down fast and it's giving more buying power to these buyers. Secondly, these new CMHC rules of reducing the down payment by 50% and more for properties up to $1.5 million, which includes the price range for these starter homes I've been talking about all video, is going to make it even more competitive. Just think about that for a second. Just think about that. Remember, 40% of the freehold sales were made up between $900,000 and $1.3 million. And if any buyer, like any person on title buying, is a first-time home buyer, they can now amortize for 30 years, which gives these segment of buyers another 10% buying power. It's a pretty stupid rule if you ask me. The Liberals unfortunately snuck this in to try to win some votes, but it's a little bit too late for them as Torontonians are going to feel the impact of this through house price increases in the next few months. The problem with all of this is, even if the Conservatives win, I do not think they're removing this immediately, which means that these rule changes will have a huge impact on the 2025 spring market for starter homes. Next, let's look at the housing affordability. And you can see in this chart, it's coming down from the peaks of 2022. Don't get me wrong, it's still very, very high right now. But the amount of starter homes that are available in the market right now is so low that a lot of people who are calling me about buying one of these homes are trying to front run this affordability increasing. So they're trying to beat it. And finally, the big demographic shift is happening. You can see in this chart here, a lot of the buyers of these starter homes are millennials. And if you look at the chart, they are the second largest generation in Canada, only after the baby boomers. Do you know what most of these millennials have in common? They either had pandemic babies or they're planning to start a family and they want a starter home. They're at that age right now, which is kind of scary when I say it. And the second largest generation is buying these houses now in Toronto. Also, don't forget, their parents, the baby boomers, have generational wealth from the equity of their homes they bought 30 plus years ago that some of them may pass down and assist them so that their grandkids stay near them. Yeah, that's also happening. Number 4, the recession impact. While I'm still of the belief that a recession is coming, the severity of it is, rather unknown. Our current unemployment rate is 6.8%. In 2008, you can see over here, the unemployment rate was as high as 8.7%, and that will impact some of the buyers as we get closer and closer to that number, and it's going to change the sentiment. But the challenge in a recession for freehold properties, which serves as people's home, like the roof over their family's head, is that they will reduce and cut all other spending before not paying the mortgage. Because this isn't an investment property that they will easily divest and sell for. So it's not like the supply is going to build up really fast like we saw in the condos. This is their primary home. So there won't be as many fire sales as some Bearswood may want. Also, one thing you got to remember is 42% of Toronto homes are mortgage free. And most cities in the suburban markets around the 905 have 40% of the homes also mortgage free. So not that much fire sales. Which leads me to my last point, number 5. We're not building enough single-family homes. If you look at the single-family housing start chart I showed you in Toronto, it's below 10,000 starts, which is what we had in the early 90s. The population of the Greater Toronto Area has almost doubled since then. We can also see this problem when we look at Ontario freehold permits, which includes the 905 in the suburban market. Remember, you need permits before you can start. And you can see in this chart here that we're at levels of permits not seen since the 80s. That's crazy, right? So the freehold starts are abysmal. And when you compare it to the population, look at this chart, you see the problem? The gap is getting bigger and bigger. Because the problem here is that there's no more cheap buildable land. While yes, Canada is like the second largest country in the world by landmass, but of the population in Canada, 18% of them, or 8 million roughly, are living in the Golden Horseshoe, a little bit around the GTA. And you know the problem of the Golden Horseshoe is it's landlocked between the Greenbelt, as you can see in this chart, which by the way, they did try to remove, but failed because of backlash. And then the other side of the Greenbelt is the blue thing, Lake Ontario. So we're landlocked. And these red arrows I pointed to you in this map are just some large pockets of land that are remaining to build homes, generally freehold homes. And these homes generally will be like medium density freehold homes, such as townhomes. And the only other way you're building more freehold homes around the Golden Horseshoe right now are infill projects, which are basically builders assembling different parcels of land, and they're probably building back-to-back townhomes without backyards, which could be in the city, as opposed to like closer to the Greenbelt, which are much more cost prohibitive as well. And this is exactly why freehold properties are going to outperform the entire market in 2025, especially the price point between $900,000 to $1.3 million. Simply put, we're just not building enough of these starter homes. And the biggest change that this new conservative government can make whenever they come to power is making it faster and easier to build. The problem with that is, it's gonna take years for this new supply to hit the market with these changes, because you have to acquire the land, go through permit, and then start building it. It takes time. So while they mean well and they're trying to increase housing supply to reduce prices, realistically, they're gonna be tapering down prices in the future. This next run up in starter home prices that's happening in 2025 is inevitable. So if you're in the market for an entry freehold house between $900,000 and $1.3 million, you need to be prepared for a competitive year to buy, given all the demand stimulus and low supply in that segment of the market. It's gonna be wild. Remember, a lot of the stimulus is from the CMHC rules that were implemented in December 2024 last year that will apply to a lot of buyers trying to upgrade from a condo to a house. So if you would like to understand whether you qualify for these new CMHC rules to buy this house, make sure you watch this video over here. It will give you all the criteria on whether you will be applicable for this, call it government help, and lower down payment for your next purchase. So I'll see you in the next video. And remember, your move, your future. See ya.